Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the what's next on Richardson Hitchins, the undefeated IBF's mandatory #1 ranked contender, after he scored a controversial 12-round decision victory over Gustavo Lemos as they competed on, I believe it was April 13th. In the April 6th, I believe it was, on DAZN. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So Richardson Hitchins, with the victory over Gustavo Lemos, locked up the IBF's mandatory title shot. So he is in line to fight the winner of Matias and Liam Paro, who collide in June. But is that going to be the next fight? You know, my personal opinion is that it will be. I think Matias is going to beat Liam Paro. And, when and if that happens, they're going to order, the IBF will order the mandatory fight between the two, between Matias and Richardson Hitchins for later this year. Now, if for some reason a unification bout is struck for Matias, because those seem to be the only times, especially with the IBF is pretty good, I'd say, about enforcing their mandatories. Yes, the heavyweight picture is different, but look at what they're doing. The winner of Usyk and Fury, if they do not decide to fight Filip Hrgović next, they will be stripped of the heavyweight championship of the world after declaring undisputed. Agree with that or not, that's how on it the IBF is about enforcing their mandatories. But as I said, if Matias can strike a deal with Teofimo Lopez or Devin Haney to unify belts in his next fight, or even Isaac Cruz, which I don't think that one's going to happen, but I'd like to see it. If a deal can be struck, then I do believe we could be seeing Richardson Hitchins fight somebody else. So let's take a look at the top 10 and see who he could fight in the top 10, and if it would be worth it to risk his IBF's mandatory shot. So we start with WBC champion Devin Haney. I think it's a bad matchup for Haney and Hitchins. I think both guys are such good boxers, it's just going to be a chess match, not worth it. And I don't see Haney wanting to come back after losing to Ryan Garcia to fight Hitchins, and I don't see Hitchins going after Haney unless it was just laid out on the table for him, which I don't think it would be. So I'm going to say no. Then you got WBO champion Teofimo Lopez. I don't think he fights a guy like Hitchins with his style. Plus, I think, Hitchins and Lopez would have to work out the deal for ESPN. Hitchins, I think, would be down because it's a title shot against a bigger name than Matias. Maybe even less risk, but I don't think Lopez would be interested, so I'm going to say no. Then there's Josh Taylor. Well, Josh Taylor's fighting Jack Catterall next at the end of May. If he's victorious, I think he just wants a big fight, so I don't think he would fight a guy like Hitchins. Then there's Jack Catterall, and again, we just said he's fighting Josh Taylor at the end of May. If he beats Josh Taylor, I don't know if Hitchins would want to fight a guy like Catterall and risk his mandatory status. So I'm going to say no to this one, even though Catterall is highly rated by the IBF. Then there's Jose Ramirez, the former unified champ. Ramirez is returning. He's taking on Rances Barthelemy. I don't think he'd want to fight like a guy like Richardson Hitchins next after that. And I'm not sure Hitchins would want to risk his mandatory shot against a guy like Ramirez. Maybe he would, but it's kind of a high-risk fight when you have a mandatory shot lined up. Then there's Sandor Martin. Personally, I think Martin's going to get the crack at Devin Haney next. But it's not a bad matchup for both guys, but Hitchins, it might be too bad of a matchup and too big of a risk you know, for a kind of a guy with not a big name like Martin, ahead of a guaranteed title shot. Then there's Regis Prograis, the former world champion. For Hitchins, I think he'd be down for a fight like this because I think he'd be confident he would beat Prograis. Prograis, I don't think he would want to go after a guy like Hitchins coming off of a loss to Haney. Then there's Subriel Matias. As we said, I believe this is going to happen unless Matias strikes a unification bout with somebody. Arnold Barbosa Jr. I mean, I think Hitchins would be down for that. I don't think Barbosa would. Both these guys are currently #1 ranked contenders for world titles, so why risk it by fighting each other, if that makes sense? Unless, but here's one way that could be a risk, that they could go for it though, is if Matias fights Lopez next in a unification bout, they're the IBF and WBO champ, then the mandatories could fight each other and risk it. But I don't think Barbosa would want to risk his mandatory against Hitchins, if that makes sense. So I'm going to lean towards the no on that one. Gary Antoine Russell, I don't see Hitchins giving him a chance. Kenneth Sims, you know, highly rated by the WBA, but it's just too big of a risk. Ishmael Barroso, maybe Hitchins might fight him because, but then again, he's risking a title shot. And with Barroso's power, the way he just destroyed O'Hara Davies, I don't think Hitchins would want to risk it. Then there's Nestor Bravo, not really a known guy, so I don't think he'd risk it. Rolly Romero, I'm sure he'd fight a guy like Rolly, but I don't think Rolly would fight a guy like him. And Ryan Garcia I don't think he's going to fight again at 140. So for Richardson Hitchins, I really believe he's going to get the winner of Matias and Paro, because I'm not sure that a unification bout can be struck, or that Devin Haney or Teofimo Lopez would want Matias after the Paro fight. Maybe they would, though. Maybe Matias gets exposed against Paro, and then Devin Haney or Teofimo Lopez might be like, hey, I want to unify belts against this guy now. So I do think there's that chance. But if that happens and Hitchins has to wait around, one, if I'm the IBF, I order an immediate rematch between him and Gustavo Lemos then. If Hitchins has to wait. Order a rematch. I think they should order a rematch anyways and give Matias a second optional defense this year, because Lemos probably should have won the fight against Hitchins. When they announced the 117-111 card, I was under the impression that because of the aggressiveness, the effective aggressiveness, even though Hitchins outlanded Lemos, I still believed that because of the effective aggressiveness, when they announced that card, I said, oh, Lemos won. And I just thought it was a travesty, you know, not a robbery, but I thought that card, how do you give 9 rounds to Richardson Hitchins? That was just bullshit. But it was somewhat close. So that's why, in my opinion, it warrants a rematch, especially if Matias gets an opportunity to unify belts next. Matias or Paro. But I really believe Hitchins is going to get the crack at Matias in the second half of the year and go for the world title. So we'll see what happens, but that's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next on undefeated, mandatory #1 ranked contender, Richardson Hitchins at 140 pounds. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.